Guys, Brandon from thirstgym.com. Today we're going to talk about everything you need to know to start your first powerlifting meet. And even if you've done powerlifting or powerlifting meets, I would suggest you watch this video. You might take some tips and tricks away. So let's get into it. So just to briefly discuss some things, in terms of competing in powerlifting, we're talking about competing in the squat, the back squat specifically, the bench press, and the deadlift. Those are the three exercises that you're gonna do. Now in powerlifting, you can do what's called a push-pull or a bench only or a deadlift only, to where you only do those exercises, but generally most are gonna do the full power portion. So when you go to register, you're gonna wanna sign up for full power if you want to be able to squat, bench press, and deadlift, and the meet will always be ran in that order, regardless of what federation that you're looking to compete in. The first thing to talk about really quickly is federations. Now, I know many people are gonna say that the USAPL or the WRPF, as of right now, as of 2024, are the premier organizations to compete in powerlifting. And I will humbly disagree, just because those federations right now are just the two that are on top. Historically, I don't think that they've been the best for the sport and or done the most for the sport. But that's neither here nor there. That's a different competition and discussion-based opinion video that I can certainly make at a future date. But understanding that which federation you're going to compete in is going to determine a little bit of rules and gear that you can wear. I'm going to briefly try to discuss that really quick so you know what you need to do in terms of sign up and looking for a meet. So the first thing to understand is understand what raw is. Raw lifting usually means belt and wrist straps only. Anything addition on top of that is then, in my opinion, raw with sleeves or raw with wraps, but it's raw all encompassing in terms of that you're not doing equipped powerlifting with equipped suits of single ply, multiply, or even now unlimited. So if you're looking to do raw lifting, no equipment, have the squat shirts, bench suits, or deadlift suits, then you're gonna click raw in what you do. Then it's gonna depend upon whether that raw in that federation lets you wear knee sleeves or knee wraps, and if they do, what are the regulations on said sleeves and wraps? I already know this is already getting confusing. So for the most part, you're probably gonna be raw, especially if you're new to the sport. If they allow you to wear knee sleeves, they generally are gonna have to be neoprene based to be in the raw with sleeves or the raw category. Knee wraps are going to usually be in a separate division in most federations, or some federations like the RPS and the APF, they can actually combine sleeves and wraps together. So if you put anything on your knees, that's the category. In my opinion, that's how it should be. You're either truly raw or you're truly not, especially with the way that knee sleeve construction is going currently. You're certainly getting some assistance out of those, whether you want to admit it or not. You certainly are. But that's one thing to consider when it comes to your equipment. So make sure you pick raw with wraps, what have you. I'm gonna assume if you're a first time lifter, you're not gonna be doing equipped lifting more cases than not. If you are, just make sure you're in your single ply or your multiply parameters that you're supposed to be. Okay, so once you've got that all figured out, then you're gonna be able to determine your weight class. So the weight classes work in that if you declare for the 60 kilo weight class or the 132 pound weight class, you have to weigh 60 kilos or less to be in that weight class. If you weigh 60.1, you're gonna move up to the next following weight class, which would be 67.5 in this case, or 148 in pounds. Some federations now are going away from the 132, 148, 165, the standard weight classes. Again, making things more complicated needs to be. To me, those are the weight classes. Anybody else is doing something else is just doing different to be different. So just find the weight class that works for you. When it comes to weight classes, I cannot stress this enough. Do not cut weight. Let me say that again. Don't cut weight. It's stupid. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your effort. Don't waste your mental energy. Don't force yourself to lose pounds on the platform because you're obsessed with weighing in at a certain weight. Instead, be more obsessed about lifting more weight on the bar and increasing your total. It's your first meet. I promise you, nobody gives a shit what you weigh and what you lift at your first meet. It's completely irrelevant. Don't waste your time with it. Literally, just continue to train and eat how you normally have been the whole time that you prepared for said meet that you found, and just go walk in and weigh in. I promise you, taking that piece of stress off the table will make you have a better day and a more enjoyable day, because hopefully you do more than one meet in your lifetime. So in terms of preparing for the meet, I think that covers a lot of the gist in terms of the registration. Obviously, you'll find that through Lifting Cast or the particular organization that you want to do. You'll sign up for the meet. You'll make sure it's the right day, the right time, all that kind of great stuff. Fill out your name. If there needs to be a membership card with some, make sure you've got a membership card with that. Again, I'm not going to go into this too in detail, but in my opinion, membership card is a waste of time. It's just a way to pigeonhole you into one federation over another. Should be able to go wherever you want, compete however you want, because you are the lifter making the decision, not the federation. But anyways, make sure you're signing up for the federation that you want with the membership card if you happen to need it, and you've got the right equipment to be able to compete in terms of your raw or equipped and all that kind of great stuff. And then you will want to make sure that you do need have a singlet, a one-piece singlet that goes over the shoulders. It's going to come down to about mid-thigh. Wrestling singlets, and obviously there's other brands, Elite FTS, A7. Those are kind of the big popular ones. Any of those will work, but just find a quality lifting singlet to get you going. And then in terms of footwear, you just wear with whatever you normally train in for the most part. That might be heeled shoes, that might be flat-soled shoes, that might be tennis shoes for your first meet. I would honestly just do that if that's what you've been training in for 12 to 16 months, or 12 to 16 weeks. But if you're looking to get more competitive, I would find something flat or heeled, depending upon your squat, bench, deadlift setup, all that kind of great stuff. So hopefully that'll get you started. So let's talk about what's next. Okay, so we've kind of talked about the registration and getting your equipment that you need. And then obviously the other thing that needs to be discussed is your training length. So when it comes to determining your first meet, in my opinion, if there's anything local to you, and by local, I mean less than an hour's drive, that's what I would pick. I wouldn't even worry if it's 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out, 12 weeks out. Doesn't matter. If you find out there's a meet and you're wanting to do one and it's less than an hour away from your house, I would 100% do that meet regardless of federation. Because here's the other thing that I'm thinking about as a first-time lifter. It means you get to sleep in your own bed. You don't have to worry about a long day of travel. You can come back and sleep in your bed the night after. If you forget something, heaven forbid, it's really not that far. If you really had to go get something, you know, the night before or the day of, somebody can maybe run and go get it for you. You know, there are some perks to that. So look local first. Don't worry about the federation part. Look local first to get your experience, and then branch out as you needed to find that. In terms of your training link, in the most ideal scenario, you would have 12 to 16 weeks to truly prepare for this competition. But as a beginner, find the local one first and literally just prepare your training ahead of time. Find something online, find something cheap, find something free from a training program's perspective, because for your first meet, in my opinion, again, this is gonna be a hot take, your training program doesn't matter for your first meet. It really doesn't. As long as you don't max out 2 days before the meet, you're gonna be fine. The goal is just to try to improve your strength as much as you can and as efficiently as you can, which is probably gonna be through a free training program, and do your best and go to the meet and cross your fingers that you're going to do your best and have some help. And we'll talk about the attempt selection here in a second, but that would be the easiest way and the cheapest way to, again, take all the stress off of you. Don't worry about hiring a coach. Everybody's going to say you need to go hire one for your first meet training program. In my opinion, giant waste of money. Save your money, find a free one online. Okay, so the next thing is going to be the rules of the competition. Now, I'm not going to go through all the rules because all the federations are slightly different, but you're going to find the major things. We talked about how it's going to be squat, bench press, deadlift, always. There's going to be flights involved. So what the flights mean is that as you sign up for a meet, let's say there's 30 people in the meet, they're probably going to have 2 flights of 15, give or take. And that means a group of 15 is going to do their squats. So they're going to do squat attempt 1, top to bottom. They're going to go back to the first person, top to bottom, back to the first person, all the way around. That flight is done, they're gonna roll right into the second flight, the second group. So they're gonna go through their first attempts, their second attempts, and their third attempts, and then you go to bench and deadlift, and it carries on that day. If you've got more flights, say you got 3 flights or 4 flights, then it's gonna be a longer day, so just understand that. I'll talk about length here in a minute. And then when it comes to your attempts, the weight can never go down from what you selected. So if, say, you want to open with a 200-pound squat and you miss that attempt, you can't go down to take 190. You will have to stay at 200. Okay, so, and we'll talk about openers here in a minute, but generally you want to make sure your openers are something that are easy that you can get. They're still gonna be somewhat challenging, but in any day that you walk in the gym, you're gonna be able to hit those weights to competition standards. Now, the other rules that you're gonna find, you're usually gonna have a minute when they say the bar is loaded for you to get up, approach the bar, and get the lift started. Some federations allow a little bit of wiggle room on this, some are super strict. Just make sure that there will be a rolling clock in more cases than not for you to have a certain amount of time to get the lift started and get the start command in the squat, the bench press, and deadlift. For the squat, the big things you're gonna have to worry about is squatting to 90 degrees. So hip crease is gonna be below the top of the knee for most federations, that's what it's gonna say, and that the bar can't go up and down. Okay, and you can't move your feet once you're told to squat. Those are kind of the big ones for squat. For bench press, you usually have 3 commands. You usually have a start, bench, and rack command. Some federations will just let you go down on your own, and you'll be able to press and rack. But the big things there are usually that, again, the bar can't go up and down once it's made its way up. The bar is going to be motionless on your chest, so for beginners, is the biggest issue. So when they come down, they're used to bouncing or heaving or pushing. You're gonna have to wait, completely stop to get that press command before you push again. Most federations don't usually care whether your head comes up or down. Some will say that it has to stay back, so just make sure for your federation that you compete and choose that you're following the head rules. Some federations also will not let you tuck your feet, so that means they won't let you be on your toes. Some federations don't care that you are, so make sure you understand it's okay to be on your toes. If not, that means your feet need to be completely flat the whole time, and usually that also means they can't touch the equipment in any way. And then the other thing from an equipment standpoint is that your wrist wraps around your hands. Your thumb loop cannot go over your thumb. You've got to actually have that off when you compete. Those are going to be the big things on squat. Oh, you can't wear anything on your elbows as well. So those are going to be the big things on bench press. And then when it comes to deadlift, there is no start command on deadlift. They're just going to tell you when to put it down when you're standing fully erect. And what that means is that your knees, your hips, and your shoulders are basically in a complete straight line. You're locked out. Your knees aren't soft. Your butt's not. You don't have saggy butt, so you got your hips all the way through, and then your shoulders are tall. You're not like this. So then the other one will be ramping or hitching. You can't pull the weight and let it just like ride up your knees and use your knees for support to finish the lift. You usually see more so in strongman. That's not allowed either. Then when you're told the down command, you're just gonna have to hold onto the bar the whole time. So those are gonna be the main rules that you need to know for the 3 main lifts. And then how the meet is run. Once everybody's gone, they'll do the award ceremony, all that kind of stuff. So that's gonna be how the meet runs and the rules and regulations that you need to probably worry about. So now we're gonna talk about the check-in process. Okay, now that you got the rules, you've signed up, you know where the meet is, all that kind of stuff. Some federations are gonna have a check-in process where usually you're gonna have to show proof of ID, you're gonna have to have your membership card if that's applicable, and they may have you look through your equipment to make sure that it's legal for the competition, but also for the classes that you entered. And when I talk about classes in terms of the registration, there are gonna be age options that you can sign up for. So there'll be different teen, there'll be junior, which is 2023. There could be submasters, masters, which is for older people, and then there could be open, which is basically everybody against everybody, okay? In terms of that particular weight class. So there's like over 1,000 ways to get first place in powerlifting. So I would just say for a first time lifter, just sign up for the age group that applies to you and the fact that you're probably gonna be raw. And that's probably gonna be all that you need. I wouldn't worry about the police, military, fire, all those other things. Just sign up for the one division that's for your weight class. So when you go to check in, that's all that you're gonna have to do. You're gonna bring your equipment, they're gonna look at it. In my opinion, this is honestly generally a big waste of time. It's made to be out something special that it's really not. Most companies are making their equipment to standards off the factory line. There shouldn't be anything that's not legal. You could technically bring a pair of 3-meter wraps to a meet where you can only use 2.5. Haven't seen that happen very often, and honestly, if you're a beginner trying to do that, that's kind of wild. But I personally think it's a giant waste of time. I think if you see somebody approach the platform in the wrong equipment, because who says you have equipment check and just literally wear a different singlet or a different pair of socks, or you know, you could literally use a different piece of equipment and they didn't check it, right? So that's why I think the equipment check's a waste of time. Again, hot take, just my opinion. But you are gonna probably have to do that in some federations where you're gonna have to show them who you are. That's your membership card. That's your equipment that they're gonna look at to make sure it's all legit. And then once you're done with that, usually you'll have weigh-ins if it's the morning. From weigh-in, some federations will let you weigh in 24 hours before. So that means if your competition is on 9 a.m. on a Saturday, the first weigh-in option will be at 9 a.m. on a Friday. My suggestion as a beginner, if you can make that weigh-in and it's very easy for you to make it, you should do it in a 24-hour weigh-in. It's just gonna give you more peace of mind. You're gonna go home and eat, sleep, relax. You're gonna have a much more relaxing time than having to stress about whatever weight class that you're gonna be in for that 2-hour weigh-in before, which is what some federations do. But again, if you're just walking to compete like I say you should, then that 2-hour weigh-in honestly shouldn't really matter either. You're just gonna be probably ordered up. Some federations will have a certain order that they're gonna weigh in, and you've gotta weigh in that order. You don't get to choose. Some federations, it's literally first come, first serve. If you're the first one there, first one in line, you're the first one to weigh in. So make sure you know what your federation does in terms of that weigh-in process. But again, for your first meet, I wouldn't worry about your weigh. I literally would just show up to the meet, do the weigh-in 2 hours before, regardless of off the 2 hours or not, and just have a good time and not worry about that weigh-in process. The other thing is what you'll need outside of those equipment. So I mean, like, you're gonna need your singlet, you're gonna need knee-high socks, you're gonna need some kind of shoes. Belt is technically optional, wrist wraps are optional, knee sleeves are optional, knee wraps are optional. All that stuff is completely optional. To maximize your best effort into this competition, my suggestion would be to use wrist wraps and a belt and maybe a pair of knee sleeves if you feel comfortable with it. That's all that I would recommend from a gear perspective. If you don't want to waste your money on the ridiculously expensive knee sleeves, I don't blame you. Go do it without the knee sleeves. You'll save yourself a lot of money and a lot of hassle at the get-go. From a shoe perspective, we already kind of talked about that, but whatever shoes you train in. But otherwise, if you're far enough out and you're looking at this, then find a pair of heeled shoes if that works well for you, or a pair of flat-soled training shoes like Chucks or Vans, something like that you're comfortable with. The Notorious lifters are also very popular now. Anything like that works great, but again, don't break the bank on getting equipment just to go compete for your first one, because you don't necessarily have to have it. So those would just be the things I recommend. However, when you do go to lift, there are gonna be some things that you can't have, right? Okay, so for example, ladies, you will have to wear a t-shirt underneath your singlet all the time, okay? Except for deadlift. You can't just have a sports bra on it for squat or what have you. So that's one thing that ladies know. Guys, same thing, you gotta have a t-shirt on underneath your singlet at all times until the deadlift comes. In terms of undergarments and underwear, you do have to wear underwear. Some federations will specify it can't be XYZ type. Generally, they want it to be cotton-based material. So they may actually not let you wear your Under Armour spandex. You will just need to double check with your federation on what is legal and what is not. Those will be the main things you want to focus on. And then you can't use straps to hold on to your deadlifts. Your deadlifts will have to be held up by your hands. But you will be able to use chalk, which the meet should provide. Now, the other thing that you'll want to know is that whichever federation you do, there could be potential different bars. Now, some federations may have a squat bar, a bench bar, and a deadlift bar. Some federations may just use a power bar for all. Some may use a squat bar, a power bar, and a deadlift bar. You will find different iterations on different federations. I would make sure that you either read the handbook or reach out to the meet director to ask what kind of barbell they're going to use, because if you happen to train at a place that has those barbells, you would want to do that. The deadlift bar will feel a little different. The squat bar will feel a little different. The bench bar will feel a little different. But if you're used to just using a regular power bar and you sign up for like a USAPL meet or something like that, you're probably gonna be okay. But you can always ask the meet director what kind of barbell you're gonna have, and that might give you a little bit of a leg up to actually train on that barbell. But for your first meet, I wouldn't worry about it that much, unless if it comes down to being the squat bar and the deadlift bar. Then you might actually want to know about that just so you have a heads up going into meet day. So the next thing I'm gonna talk about is your attempt selection and filing your attempts. So after you've done your weigh-in, they've put your weight down, they make sure you are who you say you are, you're gonna give your first attempts, okay? Now when it comes to attempt selection, my suggestion for beginners and new people is to always make your opener something you can do for 3 reps in the gym, even on a bad day, okay? Now you're gonna say, Brandon, that seems really easy. Why would I pick such a lightweight? As a beginner, you're gonna make mental mistakes, okay? You're not used to the commands, the standards, how the meet is run. There is so much chaos involved. You wanna make the variables that can change the absolute lowest that you can, and the easiest thing to do is for you to make your first attempt something that even if you screw up and you're nervous, you're still gonna have the strength to lift it, right? You're not gonna miss the weight because of a strength issue. You're gonna miss it because you missed the rack command, or you actually didn't squat low enough, like you were just a little bit high, or you rushed your press command on your bench press. It happens every single meet. As a meet director, I see it every single meet. I promise you, it will happen to somebody. You can set yourself up for success by opening light. So if you can usually do it for 3 reps, that's usually around the 88, 87 to 90-ish percentile for a lot of lifters. So if you want to use percents, 90-ish percent, slightly less is probably what I would suggest, just so that you can make sure you get in the meet. Also as a beginner, if you miss your first attempt, retake it. I don't care what your coach says, what your handler says, what anybody says. At your first meet, there's one goal and one goal only, and that's to put up a total and have a good time. And guess what you can't do if you bomb? You can't put up a total and you can't have a good time. So retake any missed attempts that you missed from either technicality or strength. Does not matter why you missed it. Retake it to do your best to improve your ability to build a little bit of a total and build some confidence and have a good time. I would say generally you want to try to go 7 for 9 or better on your first meet. Usually that means you might make some aggressive jumps on some third attempts if you hit some personal bests or something moves really great and you're really happy with it and you want to have the atmosphere to take an all-time PR attempt from training, then absolutely 100% behind that. But again, make sure you get in the meet. That way you've got your squat, a bench, and a deadlift so you have a complete total. Again, you're gonna put your openers in, and then usually you're allowed to change your openers one time once they're put in before the meet. So if you decide you wanna go down a little bit, you talk with your coach or a friend and you're like, hey, I'm gonna go down a little bit, then make that adjustment as you need. And you can change your other attempts pretty much at any point as long as you're not in the middle of the flight. So if squats are going around and you're like, hey, I need to change my bench press, then I'm gonna go up and change my bench press after squats because I feel really tired, okay, whatever it is. You're allowed to change those attempts. So again, open, light, retake attempts that you miss. When it comes to your coach and handler, my suggestion is to find somebody that has done several meets themselves and has helped several people at meets themselves to help you at your meet. And what you want to look for in a handler, not only should they have that experience, that you and that coach and handler have similar expectations of what you want to do. Do you have goal weights? Do they know what you've lifted in training? You know, all those are factors that they need to know. If you don't have a coach or handler, you could probably find somebody at the meet that's willing to just give you a hand and a little bit of a nudge and consult you a little bit. Powerlifting is very friendly in that nature. But if you happen to know anybody that can go to the meet and actually help you, I would highly suggest that. The other thing I would really look for in a handler as well is if you can find somebody that will load your weights for you. You know, they're really going to be doing acts of service, bringing you water, food, salt, whatever it is that you need, they're going to bring it to you. So all you have to focus on for the day are your 9 lifts on the platform and everything else is going to be taken care of. So again, if you can find a handler, I would highly suggest it. They're going to help you out tremendously. They're going to take a lot of stress off of you. But ideally it needs to be somebody that kind of knows you personally and how you are as a person and maybe what your goals are and has some powerlifting experience. If they don't, reach out to somebody or let the meet director know that it's your first meet. They might be able to find somebody to pair you up with that can give you some consult if you need it. All right, the next thing I'm gonna talk about is food and hydration. Okay, so I kind of brought this up a little with your meet handler, bringing this to you. My suggestion is that after weigh-ins, your first thing that you want to prioritize is hydration. Even though you've not cut weight and you shouldn't have cut in weight, hydration is going to be the most important thing come on the day, not food. If you've maintained a good diet and ate well the night before and done all of that stuff, your energy levels are probably going to be good. It's usually hydration that a lot of people miss the boat on, so make sure you're drinking plenty of water, but also plenty of electrolytes with that water. I personally like Element. There's other things out there, Pedialyte, Gatorade, Powerade. Make sure you've got plenty of that for the day, always on tap when you need it. Carry it around with you constantly so you're constantly hydrated. Also make sure from a food perspective, if you do want to take food, you want to find something that's very portable, easy to consume, and does not upset your stomach. So this isn't a time to experiment with weird foods or be eating gummy bears or things of that nature. My suggestion is to keep it very simple. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, cereal, granola bars, fruit, energy bars, if you happen to eat those on a regular basis or are familiar with anything like that, you know your stomach's gonna be okay with them. Bagels with like jelly. Usually you want them to be focused around carbohydrate-based stuff, not super heavy in fat. Which I said, you know, peanut butter and jelly has some. You will need some fats a little bit, but you don't want to be eating jars of peanut butter or Nutella by any means. But you really want to make it very carb-based and things that are going to sit well in your stomach, and you don't have to eat all of it at one time. You know, you can literally eat half a granola bar in the middle of your warm-ups, and it's not going to affect your stomach, right? But if you try to down a protein shake in the middle of your attempts, that's probably pretty dumb. Okay, so just make sure that you're sticking around carbohydrate-based foods, things that are comfortable with your stomach and that work well with you. Don't get massive meals. Don't go get Subway and Qdoba and Chipotle. Wait for that after the meet. Stick to the snacky-based foods. And if you're able to eat a good, solid breakfast well before weigh-ins, that's when you want to get some good quality, dense food, because by the time you compete, that's all going to be in your bloodstream. It's not going to be sitting heavy in your stomach. So hydration first, carbohydrate-based snacks. Big meals should be the night before or the morning of, so they're plenty far away out from where you're actually eating. And then obviously veg out after the meat. Now the next thing I want to talk about is good meat etiquette. Now, as a beginner, you're gonna find a lot of people that take this sport very seriously, and they're gonna find you as a beginner annoying, okay? That's just the way it's gonna be. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it or, you know, tell you how it isn't. That's just how it is, especially if they have elite totals, and there's some pretty driven mofos out there, okay? If you get in their way, they think you're gonna ruin their mojo, okay? So what you can do from a meat etiquette, if you're watching this video, you're already gonna be a leg up, but you wanna make sure that you try to stay out of other people's way, especially during warm-ups if you're not warming up. If you are warming up with a group of lifters, you have to be assertive, okay? You can't stand around and just expect to go whenever you want. There should be an order of how people are warming up at the particular lifts. You shouldn't walk up to a rack that's got 315 on it and you say, I need to go down to the bar. That's terrible etiquette. That's how people are gonna really hate you and get very frustrated. Get warmed up early, even if it means that you gotta roll around or do whatever you gotta do 20 minutes before you think you want to. If you're warmed up and ready to start taking the bar, or you're the first person that goes and takes the bar, other lifters are gonna come over and start to take the bar. You can take the initiative. But if you see lifters taking the bar, you need to get over there and take the bar as well, because once the weight goes up, just like in the meet, during warm-ups, they shouldn't come down. You also should try to be in similar racks or groups that you're with in your flight around people that you're lifting, okay? If you're a lightweight guy and you're with the girls, don't warm up with the girls, okay? Warm up with any other guys that you're with so that the weight change is more applicable. That way, a new girl's not having to do 95 on her warm up and you're trying to take 275. That's a lot of weight change and wasted time in the warm up room. If you're needing equipment like your belt, your knee wraps, your knee sleeves, take those with you to where you're going to warm up. Don't leave them back at a particular place. Go to where you're gonna warm up with all the equipment that you need so everything is right there. As you're waiting, I would highly suggest trying to find a way to take a seat, whether that means bring your own lawn chair, use chairs that they have, use the benches, sit on the racks, sit on machines, whatever they have, sit down to rest. Standing on your feet all day warming up during your lifting is gonna be draining by the time you get to deadlifts. So just find a way to chill out, bring a lawn chair, that's my best suggestion that you can do, and you'll be in a good spot there. Now, other etiquette things that I would recommend is that if you have the ability to use clips or safety straps, use them. That gives the meet director a peace of mind. It also keeps everybody safe. If somebody's taking one of their last warm-ups and it's pretty heavy, you know, let's say it's 500 or 600 pounds and you're in that group, you should side spot or back spot or run the monolift. Do something as a group so that you can help each other not only get done faster, but be safer, because guess what? They're gonna come and repay that favor for you if you need that on bench or deadlift or, you know, something like that. Generally, if you work together, people are gonna be happy to have you in their group as you get ready for the meet. The other thing I'm gonna recommend, lastly, is that you always be respectful to the judges and the table workers. That's just considered good etiquette. Don't be an asshole. Thank the judges, thank the table workers, thank the spotters and loaders. I assure you, nobody's out to get you, especially at your first meet, let alone any meet. But thank them, because it is a very tiring and hard job that it takes some skill to do, and they're ultimately sacrificing their Saturday or Sunday probably to help you have a good powerlifting meet. So again, be considerate to all the people working the meet. Let them know as much as you can if you have a question or if you're thankful for something. I promise you they do appreciate that. And if you do that, I promise you those little things are gonna make your day go super smooth and people are gonna enjoy to be around you at the meet. Okay, we're gonna talk about some final thoughts in the duration and what you can kind of expect at the meet. Okay, so most meets, especially if they're like a state level or a local level meet, you're probably gonna find them anywhere from between 30 and 50 lifters. They're usually gonna be on a Saturday, some will be on Sundays, but usually they're gonna be on the weekends. And most start times are usually going to be about between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Most of them are usually around 9 a.m., which means they're going to have your weigh-in times probably at like 7 o'clock in the morning, or they could be the day before. Now, the duration, the way that I like to look at this is that most meets are usually done with a standard 50 lifters. If they're completely full, they're usually done by about 4:30, maybe 5 if they run a little long. you will also find that some move a little bit faster that might be done 3 or 3:30. So it just kind of depends upon one, what federation, how much weight change has got to happen, how many people don't show up that signed up. There could be some things that factor into that. If anybody's taking 4th attempts, if people are passing on 3rds, that all speeds up the meet. What kind of breaks you're going to have. Most of the time, you're going to find a 10-minute break between the squat, the bench, and the deadlift pretty normal on top of whatever flights you have. So you should have enough time between your attempts to get some hydration like we talked about, get a snack in you, kind of chill out, tone down a little bit before you have to start warming up for the next lift. But the duration, you're usually going to look from about 8 or 9 in the morning to usually about 3 to 6 in the evening, depending upon how many people are there. Anything that's going past that, in my opinion, is probably too long. It's either not efficiently ran or somebody has overbooked the amount of lifters they should have in a day. I think that's a disservice to you as a lifter to have to be there all day, 10, 11 hours for a powerlifting meet. I think that's a little ridiculous, but at least let you know what to expect and what the worst case scenarios are, because I've even been in one that went 12 hours and it is absolutely horrendous. But I've also been some that have literally gotten done in like less than 5 hours. So those were really well efficient run meets, right? So you do have to understand that you gotta be ready for that. And from a conditioning perspective and an in-shape perspective, you wanna make sure that you're able to handle that, because if you're able to handle that, things are gonna go pretty smoothly. The final thoughts that I'm gonna give here, and I'm gonna kind of repeat myself because this has been a long video, but if this is for your first meet, understand, like I said, there's 2 goals that you want to have. You want to put up a total and have fun. Any other goals outside of that are going to be personal goals that you have, and I definitely encourage you to attempt to hit personal best if you certainly can, and you have the energy and the motivation to do it. But with the biggest issue that I see with beginner lifters is they're too big on the minutia of things that need to happen. They're trying to get all the fancy gear and get the special coach and get the special program and cut weight and have a certain DOTS or Wilks score. For your first meet, that is all ancillary bullshit, okay? You do not need that to have a good time at a powerlifting meet. If you train hard for 8 to 10 weeks and you found the one you want to do and you understand the rules and the regulations and you like to squat, bench, and deadlift, do the bare minimum that you got to do the meet, because what happens if you decide this is not for you and you invested all that money into coaching and programming and a handler and travel and cutting weight, and it's just not good, okay? I can see how that can get really expensive very fast on a sport that should not be expensive. So do what you can within reason, within financial ability that you feel comfortable with. I'm not gonna tell you you can't go hire a coach. You certainly can, especially if you've got the money to do it. But I think for your first meet, you will learn a lot more if you handle your own programming, your own training, because you don't know what to expect of what you're gonna be able to do. You just need somebody there to consult you and help you through the handling process, and that will make your day really smooth. If you don't cut weight, that's gonna make things really smooth. I hate to sound like a broken record there, but I can just not stress that enough, that for your first meet, you should not cut weight, okay? Just don't do it, nobody cares. Go in, have fun. Hopefully you do the meet with friends or family or somebody that you know that will make it more enjoyable, and you should be onto a good path to have a good day. That's all I've got for this video. That was a ton of information. So if you got any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'd be happy to help you out. I myself have done about a dozen meets personally. I've directed meets, I've judged meets, I've spotted loaded meets. I've done basically every position you can think of in a meet several times at this point. And I can assure you that I probably can have a good way to guide you to help you out. And working with many beginner lifters as I have, beginner to intermediates, the issues that I'm explaining are ones that's not like I'm seeing one off. It's very common repeatability issues and redundancy issues that I see in younger lifters. So hopefully this helps you get ready for your first powerlifting meet. Again, if you got any questions, let me know. More than happy to help you and direct you in any way that I can so that you have a great first meet. And we'll see you at the next video.